computer. Actually, before we start, what I'd like to do is to revert to. I know we're doing. It's not a Ger and Corona Tillica one today, but there was a very interesting point where that Todd raised, which I've now done some further research. I felt rather bad towards Todd because I had the impression I was still on the Petit Lab Home. Yeah? I was wondering whether I was slightly poo-pooing Todd's idea. And then further research shows that he was really onto a good point. Let me just, what am I trying to do? I just want to open up a file. What am I trying to do? Open a file, browse. Be right with you in a moment. Yeah, hello, Chianque. Almost with you. I'm going to share screen. So before we go into our Itipiso, which is the chant we're doing today, I'm just going to share screen. Share. Oh, hang on. Is the screen shared now? And can you see do you see chapter 2?
Yes.
And it's this word, this first verse here, Kicho Manusa Patilabho. And what was the Labha we all know. Hello, welcome, Jay. And are you there with us, Shalaka? Labha just means obtaining or getting. So kicho, difficult or rare, is the labha, now pratilabha, of manusa, of human existence, human life. And I was looking at this word prati, which often has kind of reciprocal back for oneself with regard to oneself. I looked into it further, and it's actually even better than all that. So the labha is getting, but the pratilabha is getting it back in the sense of getting what you deserve. Now, that can be, we can use that in a nasty sense or a nice sense in English. He got what he deserved, he got what was coming to him, in the sense of, he behaved badly and he received his punishment. But here it is actually living in such a way that you have merited and earned and deserved the privilege of coming back to human life. So I'm glad that you kind of picked further on that point, Todd, because that is actually brings much more meaning. This now makes a lot of sense. It makes a good kind of moral sense here. So it's not just randomly having human life, randomly getting it, the luck of the draw, but there's the element here that you've actually had to work to earn it, to work to deserve it. So thank you for that, Todd. So we'll now go to where we were meant to be, which I shall find. Yeah, hello, Shalaka. Welcome.
Thank you.
This the recollection of the triple gem. must surely be one of the most widely known and popular chants, I think, among the Theravada Buddhists. It begins with the Namo Tassa, which we normally do with the refuges and precepts. That's the same as, when we do the refuges, we start off with the Namo Tassa. And also when we do the Iti Piso, we start off with the same, but chanted in a different way, typically. So there aren't very many of us here this evening, but I do sincerely hope, and I'll probably going to send a note Samatha-wide saying, look, all of you have chanted this Iti Piso chant many, many times. If you now want to know what it really means word by word, I'll direct them to the link. So, yeah, hi Jai. So we'll look at these words first. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The root nam, just the bare root nam, N-A-M, the literal meaning of that root is simply to bend. Just, what I'm doing with the fingers here is bending. And by extension, it means bending yourself at the waist, bowing. And then by further extension, it means bowing in reverence, so offering reverence typically to a person. I'm just going to call up my iPad. A moment. There we are. So the root is nam. It's a regular class 1 verb, so he, she, or it bends or offers reverence to his namati. And we sing chant Sangham Namami. I offer reverence to the Sangha, for example. It makes a verbal noun. It's an as stem, so the verbal noun is namas, which in Pali becomes namo. Says it declines. So that the stem in Sanskrit and Pali is namas, but then in Pali on its own it becomes namo. That is why we have namo tassa. Many of you will know, I'm not asking Shalaka because it belongs to Shalaka's esteemed native land, but many of you will know that wonderful Indian greeting, Namaste. Shalaka, do you use the same greeting in Marathi, Namaste? I know the Hindi speakers use it.
Yes, we either say namaste, namaskar, both are equally used.
Okay, right. I'm glad you've mentioned the namaskar, because the namakara is the Pali version of namaskar. So I'll explain that to you in a moment. So in Sanskrit on its own, this word would be, if the word was standing on its own, would be namaha. Namaha. However, when you get the visarga followed by a t sound, it reverts back to being a s, which is why it's not namaste but namaste. Literally, homage to thee, or reverence to thee. Now, I don't know what you think about this, Shalaka, but te is specifically singular. You know, if you're speaking to two people or more people, you'd use a different word. Strictly speaking, if you were giving that greeting to two people at the same time, strictly speaking in Sanskrit, you would say Namo Yuvabhyam.
What?
Hmm? And strictly speaking, in the plural, if you're speaking to three or more people, you would strictly speaking say Namo Yushmabhyam, which is the dative plural. Though I don't think anyone actually does that, do they, Shalaka?
No, not really. In fact, the explanation you gave, namaste, I don't think anyone knows that. Namaste means I'm bowing to you. I don't think anyone knows that. I came to know
They
it only
do.
today.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I'm glad that I've got. Did you know it?
No, not at all. Because it's the word we use every day, so we never thought of it.
I suppose that's right. Yeah. So they were out from the root nam, bowing, namas, reverence, namaste, reverence to you. So that may explain why the Indians always just use the singular form te instead of the rather more complex forms. Not something you need to worry about in as Pali students. So that's it. It basically means bending and therefore bowing. Um, Here we have Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. These are, as I've explained here, these are all genitive slash dative endings, means homage to. In fact, in Sanskrit, you wouldn't say Namo Tassa Bhagavato, you say Namastasmai Bhagavate in Sanskrit, but it just begins Namo Tassa Bhagavato in Pali. So tassa means to that. So homage to that blessed one. The root, so not the root, the word bhagavato, this is the dative genitive form. Many of you will already know the ablative, which is bhagavata, as in swakato bhagavata dhammo, well proclaimed by the Blessed One. That's the instrumental form. And you will probably all know the accusative form. Sorry? Did somebody speak?
I think I did. I said Bhagavatam, is it?
Almost. It's Bhagavantam. There's an N comes in. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantam Abhivademi. That one. The root bhaj, from which we get bhaga, the root bhaj originally means a portion or a share. And it makes a verbal noun bhaga here, which means a portion or a share. But it's more than just, a portion, a slice of the cake. There is behind it the idea of having, if you're a Bhagavan, you're in possession of this bhaga. It means you have received much, but you are passing on much. You have received much into yourself, you are passing it on, receiving in order to give. So that's how it's translated as blessed, but the idea of you have received much and you are handing on much. Arahato, I've explained all these words. I think you all know by now that where you see the double colon and the word, it means it's explained further in the explanatory glossary, which I do urge you to look at from time to time. This arahato It's from the same word that we get, the arahants, which would often described as the perfected people. The root, let me call up. Oops. The root actually is ar. And in Sanskrit, it's the present. I mean, it means literally to be worth, and it's actually cognate with our English word worth. And so an arahant comes to mean something like worthy. So the arahant and our English word worthy are in fact etymologically from that same root, but it's acquired this technical meaning among the Buddhists of being having achieved the supreme worthiness of the human state, so being a perfected being. In Sanskrit, that makes the verb arhati. In Pali, it inserts an extra a. So in Pali, it is arahati. And that is where we get the present participle arahang. Arahang samma sambuddho. It makes an accusative arahantam, the same as bhagavantam, and it makes the dative genitive arahato. That gives us bhagavato arahato. So namo, homage to that tassa bhagavato arahato. Samma sambuddhassa. Those of you who know the Noble Eightfold Path, starting with samadhi and all the other things beginning with samma kamanta, samadhi. I can't forget them. Sorry, I can't remember them in order, but I jolly well ought to at my age. But anyway, there it is. I can't remember the correct order. But the operative word that we're talking about here is samma, which is often translated as right, right view, right action, right speech, or the right. That word in English it catches only a tiny little bit of the meaning. There's no word that catches, no single English word would catch the entire richness of the meaning of samma, but I'll explain it to you. In Sanskrit, it is. We need to look at it in Sanskrit in order to understand it. In Sanskrit, it is samyak. So this word samyak in Sanskrit would, by regular phonetic mutation, this is predictable. The mir becomes a double M, and a final ak in Sanskrit just becomes a long a. So that's where we get samma, Sanskrit, sammak. And it means much more than right, as I will explain. It's actually, this word is composed of three elements, no less. We have got the sum plus e, and the root anch. Sum e anch. I'm not going to bore you too much with Sanskrit sandhi, but when you get a word that a root in anch, okay, this root now becomes the final member of this word, samyanch. Two rules apply now, two rules of sandhi. This is now stands as a proper word rather than just an abstract root. What happens in Sanskrit? In Sanskrit, a word is not allowed to end in two consonants. One of them has to go. So the ny goes. So it then now ends in ach. Rule number 2. a Sanskrit word cannot end in a ch sound. So the ch will then, by sandhi, mutate to a k. And that is how we get some e ak now. So the ak is actually the anch, but by the laws of phonetics in Sanskrit, it's become ak, anch to ak, at the end of a word. This root anch is, the original meaning of it is to bend. And it has the alternative form. The root is anch, but ank. So, for example, anka. Bend. It is cognate with the Latin word angulus, meaning an angle. You know, where a line is bent, it makes an angle. But even more entertainingly, it turns up in English. If you think of the very bendy joint at the bottom of your leg, it is no
Ankle.
accident that it is the ankle. So in fact, our ankle is from that same root, that same primitive root meaning bend. It's the very bendy joint that joins the foot to the rest of the leg. So bending. Now, the root E on its own, this E bit in the middle, means to go. And I think you all know this already, but E to go, oops, exactly the same as the Latin root E, meaning to go. That's the root. The verb is ire, to go. In Latin, he, she, or it goes is it. In Sanskrit and Pali is eti. But in Latin, he, she, or it goes is it, which we use in English, of course, because to go out is exire, so he, she, or it goes out is exit. Exit. It's a verb in Latin. Ex out, it goes. So there we go. Trans across it. If goods in transit, you see, going transit goes across. And the prefix sam, directly cognate with the Greek syn, syn, and the Latin co and con. So the sam e anch, going together and folding together or bending together. It's like a harmonious merging. So you see, it's more than just right. It's in harmony, like in harmony with the Dhamma. Everything coming together, folding together. Is this harmony, like the harmony of nature. So when I think of this word saman, samyak, it's very much like our Chinese Tao, you know, the harmony, the way. It's the harmony of the law, the natural law. So this explains samma. So it means, okay, we just don't have a single English word for it. And you can translate as perfectly and you can translate as right, but you can't say these translations are actually wrong. They aren't wrong. What would be wrong is to say that the translation gets the whole picture. It doesn't. All of these words get part of the picture. The only way you can get the whole picture is by understanding it in Pali, which is the exact reason we're all here now, so that you can achieve that point. So once you delve into this little innocent-looking word samma, you know, there's a lot in that word.
In harmony.
Sambuddhasa, well, Buddha, we know. some here is like the idea of a completion, but it's both an intensive and here it gives a completion meaning. It emphasizes that, you know, the task has been accomplished, finally got there, completed. It's often translated as perfectly self-enlightened. So it's not an absolute word-for-word translation, which we can't quite get, but that's broadly the meaning. By the way, the word bud, the root bud, oops, give me an iPad.
Sorry, James, I had a question.
Yes, please, Shalika.
In summa, what is the meaning of sum?
The meaning of some, it's the prefix meaning together or with, or coming together. You know, we have in prefix in Latin, and of course come into English, the prefixes co and con. It's that same word. And sometimes it just adds the sense of, you know, a completion of the task, emphasizing the completion rather than the actual status. It's like emphasizing there's been an effort to get there and it's complete. Oddly enough, we see the word used in that same meaning, and we use it the entire time in English without really knowing what we are doing. There is the Latin word pletus, P-L-E-T-U-S. Give it here. And that Latin word pletus just means full. You have pletus and plenus as well. You have both. I hope my pen doesn't play out plenus. But pletus means full. If you put a com in front of it, completus, which in English becomes complete. We don't use the word plete on its own in English, but it could be used as a perfectly good word because pletus just means full in Latin. But complete suggests not just full, but it emphasizes the idea of the finishing of the task, the achievement of it. So the sum, which is etymologically the same, it gives that same idea here. And look, if you look at is my pen going to play up? Please don't play up, pen. Okay. If you look at the Sanskrit for full, in fact, the Latin plenus and the Sanskrit purna are etymologically the same word. So you have the Sanskrit word, it comes in Pali also as purna as well. So the word purna meaning full, but you can put a sum in front of it, sampurna, just as you can put a com in front of the Latin word pletus. Etymologically, they are the same words. So it doesn't alter the meaning of the word, but it emphasizes that for example, it has the subtext that there has been some process to get to that point, and the putting of the sum on it suggests that, okay, it's done, the task is accomplished. So the sambuddha suggests the culmination of a process, just as complete suggests, you know, emphasizes the culmination of a process.
So then, if I could just poke at that a little bit
Please do.
briefly. So I guess I'd say linguistically or etymologically, the emphasis on the completion of the task and the self-enlightenment isn't so much in the word, but in a kind of social convention, if you will, that this Sambudo is kind of become reserved for a being who has begun a dispensation, as opposed to a being who has continued, who has finished the task, but didn't start it entirely on their own.
Okay, yes. I mean, you are right there. So if you're looking at it purely linguistically, it suggests not only that he's enlightened, but it emphasizes that there has been a long, arduous process to get there. The work is done. Katang karaniyang, done is what had to be done. And then Todd is absolutely right then, because by convention in Buddhist usage, I mean, there may be many people who have become arahants, who have become Buddhas, but the Sambuddha is, as Todd correctly said, that is reserved for, like a higher, even higher pinnacle of it, one who is not only enlightened, but then is able to teach to others. He, gets the dispensation going. He gets the wheel of the Dhamma rolling. So it's like a super powerful, enlightened, as opposed to example, we have the Pacceka Buddha, who is sometimes translated as solitary Buddha, but you can be a very gregarious kind of Buddha and still be a Pacceka Buddha. Just Pacceka just means with regard to oneself, for oneself alone. Okay, you've made it, but you haven't got that extra magnificence that enables you to give the teaching in the way that the Bhagavad, the Sambuddha did. So that's an absolutely correct point that you made there, Todd. So the root Buddha is actually a very ordinary root of the language. I mean, it just means waking up. I mean, just in the ordinary sense. There's nothing particularly spiritual or special about just being. It's the same word as being awake or asleep. And you make the standard way of making a past participle in Sanskrit is just adding ta. So buddha. So buddha, by the rules of sandhi in Sanskrit, just become Buddha. It's just a regular past participle for formation. So it just means awakened. In fact, in the Slavonic languages, in Russian, for example, to wake up is budit, just with that same root bud, ordinary word meaning waking up. And the Russian, for example, for an alarm clock is a budilnik, something that makes you Buddha, something that wakes you up. Budilnik. So where are we?
Good.
So Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So before we move on to the next words, were there any comments or queries on this line? Or if you think of them as you go along, that's fine. You can always come back in. Oh, the Namakara. That is when I was asking Shalaka earlier, we've got the greeting Namaste, and Shalaka said alternatively, and I think you said equally used as Namaskar. So Namaste is specifically homage to thee. Te is thee, to thee. Namaskar, Namaskar, it's pronounced in modern times, the dropping of the final A. In older time, Namaskara. The kara means making, just doing or making. So namaskara literally is homage making or paying. We'd say paying of homage. In Sanskrit and Pali, you talk about making homage. Normally, you would expect from namaskara. It's put in Sanskrit namaskara with the s and the k together in Sanskrit, you'd normally have expected a double KH namakara in Pali, as in skandha becomes kanda, not ka, but ka, the aspirated one. Slightly unexpectedly, it does not happen with the word namaskara. It's just a slight anomaly. Ah, that's interesting. Did you hear the last word I said?
Anomaly.
Anomaly, yeah. Greek word nomos, like a rule or a law or a custom or something, and the way things are done. It's because that's to which you naturally incline. It's the way things are done. If it's something that's an anomos in Greek or an anomaly, it means it's contrary to the way things are normally done, contrary to inclination, contrary to the way you bend. The nom, by the way, of anomaly is the same word as num in namas. It's that same. It's that same word. There we are.
Okay.
It's the idea of what you bend towards, what you incline towards, what you naturally do. That's what it's come to mean in Greek, but it has a slightly different meaning, though the same origin in Sanskrit and Pali, meaning bending and then bowing. So we look now at the Buddhanussati. Many of you, well, I think all of you, will know that the word sati is the word that in English speaking Buddhist circles, we commonly translate as mindfulness. That is sati. And two of you here were this very morning looking at the Satipatthana Sutta, the sutta on the foundations of sati, the foundations of mindfulness. Sati, so let me get rid of this one. Sati. So is the iPad screen up now for you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Sati, mindfulness. Originally, the word simply meant remembering. In Sanskrit, it is smriti. Smriti. The root is smr. And the Sanskrit word for remembering or mindfulness is smriti. So Sanskrit smriti, Pali sati. It's the same word. The sati is just the Pali version of it. The verb to, conjugating it now as a verb, so he, she, or it remembers is smarati, which in Pali just becomes sarati. So Pali can't begin a word with a sm, so the M drops, becomes sarati. The prefix, the verbal prefix anu, as in the anusati that we have here, it's the Buddha anusati. So the Buddha, the two a and the a, Buddha anusati, by Santi link becomes Buddhanusati. This prefix anu has the general meaning of either following something or in accordance with it, or something sequential, orderly. So sati means remembering and by extension mindfulness, but anusati, which we translate not fairly accurate as recollection, is not just remembering. Oh, I remember that one. I remember that one. The anusati is like a sequential, one by one calling to mind of the qualities, not just an individual remembering one fact, remembering another fact. It is the sequential, orderly, deliberate calling to mind in a certain order, which is the meaning it has here. Now, if you're wondering why the S doubles, okay, Sanskrit sma, Pali drops to sa. You can't begin, but if you put a vowel in front of it, in Sanskrit, it would be anusmarati.
Are you writing on the iPad?
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So anusmarati becomes anusarati there, because wherever you get a consonant cluster in Sanskrit that where one of them has to drop out in Pali, smarati comes sarati. If it's at the beginning of a word can't begin with a double consonant, but if it's got a vowel in front of it, then it's allowed to double. It always wants to double itself. It now does it because anusarati. And it's like our word pramada, which is essentially the opposite of sati, heedlessness, lack of mindfulness, which in Sanskrit is pramada, and in Pali is pamada. Which incidentally is part of our absolutely essential core vocabulary in Pali. So the pamada is when you lose your mindfulness. The root mad means, going exuberant joy, and it also comes to mean kind of losing it a bit, with joyful exuberance, rushing after something. So the prefix pra means forth, out, going forth with it. So joying forth or madding forth. Query actually whether our English word mad is cognate with the root mad. So pramada. In Sanskrit, the non-pramada, apramada, is the exact, in other words, keeping the balance of your mind, keeping your mindfulness is apramada. Now, you can't begin a word with a double P, but as soon as the vowel comes in front of it, you're allowed to again. That is why pramada becomes pamada in Pali, but apramada becomes appamada in Pali. I can't remember whether I've told this before, but there's a powerful argument for saying that appamada is the most important single word that the Buddha ever uttered in his entire 45 years of teaching. And I justify that bold statement by saying that his very last word, it would have been the very last word he uttered before he died, but he was uttering it with a verb also in that sentence. And even as he was dying, he obeyed the rules of Pali syntax. So he put the verb at the end. If he had been using the words in an English order, appamada would have been his last word. That's when, and the Buddha said his last recorded words, Vaya Dhamma Sankhara, impermanent are all conditioned things, Pramadena Sampadeta, strive on with pamada, often translated as strive on with diligence. Again, diligence, okay, kind of all right, doesn't completely catch it, but strive on in a way that you keep your mindfulness with you. You know what you are doing. You are maintaining the skillful wisdom and the watching and the mindfulness as you go along. So apamadena, of course, is the instrumental form. Strive on with apamada. So buddhanusati, literally the Buddha recollection. It's translated as sometimes recollection of the qualities of the Buddha. Literally, it is just Buddha recollection, meaning recollecting the qualities.
Buddhanusati.
So itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vidya charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattha deva manusanam buddho bhagavati. So iti means thus. Literally, it means thus. But it's mostly used in the sense of, it's mostly used at the end of a sentence, meaning end of quote. Here I end the quote. In Sanskrit, iti, but in Pali it just becomes ti. You drop off the i in Pali. Where it comes more rarely at the beginning of a sentence, you never drop off the e. You have it in its full form, iti. So iti here, the person, this is a quote. It's a quote from the, you find this itipiso appearing many times in the scriptures. The first time I think the first time it occurs is in the second sutta of the Dika Nikaya, where the minister is reciting to King Ajatasattu, who I've heard that there is this man who has this wonderful reputation as follows. So itipi, thus indeed, so thus indeed is he, meaning I'm about to quote what I've heard about him. So he's not taking responsibility for saying it himself, he's just repeating what, thus indeed is he. Itipi so, thus indeed he. So itipiso bhagava, so bhagava, that is the nominative form. We've seen bhagavato, bhagavata, bhagavantam, and this is the nominative form is bhagava, which we can translate as the blessed one. It is the same, this bhagavan, bhagavat, its combining form in Sanskrit is bhagavat. And if the following word begins with a voiced consonant like Gita, it becomes a D. So that's where we get the Bhagavad Gita. It's the same Bhagava. So the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, if you parse it out, would be Bhagavato Gita or just Bhagavad Gita, which is literally the song of the Blessed One. But here it's used in a divine sense. Well, Krishna is the song of Krishna. So itipiso, thus indeed is he. The Bhagavas have explained arahang, just explained samma sambuddho, just explained. Vidya charana sampanno. Vidya briefly means knowledge. Charana, conduct. Sampanno, endowed with, or having it. Just, kind of possessed of something, sampanna. Now back to this very useful prefix, sam. As in this word, sampanna, stem form, sampanno, nominative singular form. It is from, does anyone know what the root of panna is? Okay. The root is pad. As I was saying a moment ago, normally you form a past participle in Sanskrit by adding ta with some stems, some roots. You actually add na instead of ta. Does anyone recognize the idea of making past participles mostly with a t sound, but sometimes with a n sound?
I'm not recognizing it, but in terms of how we produce speech, it makes a lot of sense because it's hard to go from a voiced consonant to an unvoiced consonant. I mean, how would you practically pronounce
Okay,
panta?
that is the that is an excellent point. You can't do it. That is why even Sanskrit doesn't. It's not natural for the speech organs to do it. But the point I was making that some past participles have a d or a t sound at the end, others have a n sound. But we do the same in English. We don't say drived and speaked and gived. It's driven, spoken, given. So many of our past participles, particularly in irregular verbs, end in an N in English, not in a D. So the regular form we add ed. In some verbs we add an N or an EN. That's a remnant of our Proto-Indo-European roots, and you find it in Sanskrit as well. So you would expect from pad, normally it would be patta, would be if it were a normal regular one, but it's padna. It's just one of those ones that happens to end in a n rather than a ta. And padna by sandhi becomes panna. That's my normal sense, the d and then a coalesce into a double n. So panna. The root pad actually means to go. It's one of the words, one of the roots meaning to go. There are several. And from pad, we get the verb, see the noun, for example, pada, which means a foot.
Yeah.
It's because the foot is that whereby we walk or go. In fact, our word foot is directly cognate with the Sanskrit and Pali pada. It is the same word originally. So panna, going, can also have the meaning of getting something. Now with the prefix some panna now suggests the effort and activity of going to something and getting it. The idea of the completion of the process of going and getting sampanna. So if you are sampanna with something, it means you are endowed with it. You've got it. It's yours now. You can also have the word patipanno, but I think we'll come to that in a few moments. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sango. So anyway, he is vijacharana sampanno. He is then endowed with or in possession of two qualities, vijacharana. And these are put now all put together in one compound word. We could translate it as knowledge, conduct endowed. Means or in possession of, fully in possession of right knowledge and right conduct. This word vidya, it's from the root vid. The root vid bears within itself the double meaning of seeing and knowing. Because if you have seen something, you know it is the original idea. Interestingly enough, this root vid, when it came into Latin, it remained as vid in Latin, from we get video, so video, which in English we have a video. It's that same vid. Video literally means just I see. And it's from that same word that we get visual, vision. It's the same word. When that root came via the Germanic line in the history of language into English, it turned up as our word wit. Now, in modern English, wit, clever comment kind of thing. But the older meaning of the word wit was just to know. To know. As in the word, for example, witness. A witness is somebody who has direct knowledge of what happened. And
or even in the phrase to wit.
To wit, yes. Now, if you want to know the detail, here I will enable you to know to wit, exactly. And also it survives in modern English as if you do something unwittingly. For example, you might upset somebody unwittingly. It means, you've done it, but you didn't know you were doing it. It wasn't a deliberate act on your part. You do it unwittingly. So we have the knowing and the seeing. Back in ancient times, it was rolled into one. In fact, in classical Greek, if you want to say I don't know, you'd say literally ukoida, which literally I have not seen. So vid can make a verbal noun in more than one way. One way of making the verbal noun is veda, vid veda. So as in the Vedas, the most ancient scriptures of the Hindus, the Rig Veda being the oldest of them. Veda simply is an old word meaning knowledge, because the Vedas were the sacred knowledge passed down. That's why they were known as the Vedas. And traditional Indian medicine, Ayurveda, for example, Ayur meaning life. So Ayurveda literally means life science. That's the meaning of the words. You can also make a verbal noun by adding the suffix ya. So that becomes vidya, which is more knowledge, not just knowing something. That has come to mean more like knowledge in the sense of with wisdom. Just as it's come into English as well. You can talk about a person of vision. That's the kind of not just seeing things, but there's a bit of an idea of wisdom. In fact, our word wisdom comes from that same root as well. So vidya in Sanskrit simply becomes vidya in Pali. The dya sound in Sanskrit will become a double J in Pali. So vidya, Sanskrit, vidya in Pali. Many of you will know the standard Pali word for ignorance, in the sense of spiritual ignorance. You just negate it by putting an a. That's where we get avidya, meaning ignorance, in the sense of spiritual ignorance. So vidya and avidya. So the vidya charana, the word charana, the original meaning, the root meaning is this is yet another word meaning to go or to proceed. So charana means your way of going, and therefore conduct, the way you conduct yourself, and by extension it refers to good conduct. So Vidya charana, sampanno, endowed with vidya, knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and charana, correct in one's behavior and conduct. The first three letters, first three sounds of that word look like the English word car. That is not an accident, because our word, there's the root char, meaning essentially to walk or to go. And that same char or kar sound turns up in other languages. It's the same as in car, cart, carriage, chariot, all the same words. So if the first three letters of charana look like the English word car, it's because it is the same word. The car or cart, carriage, is that by which you go or transport people and or goods. So that's no accident. Oh, so we've just gone 8. So we'll have our usual break now. And I'll see you again in 15 minutes for the second half. Okay. And remember, I happen to have remembered myself this time, but if I fail to do it, remind me to pause the recording for the break. Okay, I'll pause now and see you in 15 minutes. Yeah.
Good.
So we've just looked at Vidya Charana Sampanno, endowed with or possessed of knowledge, wisdom, and charana, good conduct. Sugato, these are all nominative singular forms ending in o, buddho, vidyacharana, sampanno, sugato, and so on. It's the standard nominative singular masculine ending. Sugato, literally, okay, there's some considerable discussion of what it actually means, but it's gone to a good place, gone to the right place, well gone. There's some, I'll call up iPad. It's from the root gum, meaning just to go. In fact, our English word come is from that same root. The past participle, normally you would expect to see gum plus ta. But it's not, no, it's not that. So gum plus ta would normally, when I write a little asterisk, by the way, that's a standard notation among linguists, meaning this is a deliberately incorrect form, or I'm deliberately writing a form that does not in fact exist, simply by way of illustration, how it got there. So if they were regular, it would be gamta, which by normal santi would become ganta. Well, it's more normal in front of a t to pronounce a m as a n, so it would normally be ganta. What in fact happens is that the nasal, the n drops out, and that is how we get the word gata, literally meaning gone. And the prefix su generally has the meaning of good or well or beautiful, anything positive or good. So the word sugata in its stem form, sugato in its masculine nominative singular form, it can just, but a crude literal translation would be well gone. That would be the ordinary literal translation of it. But then it has the special meaning when applied to the Buddha. So having completed the journey and gone to that enlightened end of his journey, the well gone. So the well gone is the literal translation, and of course there are interpretations what the exact meaning is here. So loka vidu is loka is the world, generally translated as the world. It's from it's from the root loch, from which also comes the English word look. So it actually, originally meant the visible world. So loka, meaning world, and our word look, they do actually have that same, everything that can be seen, everything that can be looked at. It's that same word loka, meaning world, that, for example, in modern Hindi, and I'll ask you in a moment, Shalika, about Marathi, but in modern Hindi, the word becomes log with a g at the end, meaning people. So it was originally loka in Sanskrit, it's the same word becoming log in Hindi, which is actually a plural word in Hindi, meaning people generally. So do you have the same in Marathi, Shalika, log meaning people?
In Marathi, it comes as it is, so we call it lok.
Okay, and does that mean world or people?
People.
Okay, right. So it's come to have the same meaning as the log in Hindi.
Yep.
Okay, right. Good. Thanks for that. So that's the word now meaning people in modern Marathi and Hindi is the same as the one that meant world, or the everything visible, everything can be looked at, the loka. This vidu is the same root, vid, meaning knowing. And this is one way of making an adjective. So take the root vid, add an u to it. So well knowing. So world knowing, or a knower of the worlds, which here, I mean, there are various interpretations of it. Again, world knowing could mean somebody who kind of understands the world well, or because of his status and knowledge and enlightenment, one who had knowledge of all of the worlds, the different realms, the different levels of world. It's something linguistically can bear both meanings. So the well gone, the lokavidu, the world knowing. Anuttaro, the unsurpassed Purisa Dhammasarati, charioteer or breaker of people requiring to be tamed. So anuttaro, we have the preposition ut, which sometimes means up and sometimes means, it bears both meanings, up and out. Oops. And in fact, our English word out comes from that same Sanskrit Pali prefix ut, English out. It's the same word. You can make a comparative adjective from it by adding tara, which actually just means more out. Uttara, further beyond, outer, and it has the meaning of something beyond. And this is exactly reflected in our English word outer. Uttara, outer are etymologically the same word. Now, if you negate it by prefixing the a to it, which becomes an with the following vowel, anuttara, you could create the English word. It doesn't exist, but you could create the English word unoutered. Okay, it's an invented word. Unoutered means there is nothing further beyond it. It's the utmost. It's the furthest you can get. That's for
Right.
unsurpassed. Nothing can do better than it. So, anuttara, literally unoutered, means unsurpassed, unequaled. There is nothing that has gone further than that. So the anuttaro Purisadhamma Sarati. I think we is it you we can hear, Krista, as you're wonderfully saying the words to yourself. Okay. Purisa Dhammasarati. Purisa means man. Actually, normally it specifically means a male person as opposed to a female person, the Purisa. But in this context, clearly, it's intended to refer to human beings generally. Dhamma, note, not Dhamma with an H. This is Dhamma with no H, an entirely separate word in Sanskrit and Pali. Dhamma means requiring to be tamed. I'll explain it to you. We've got the root dham, meaning to tame, literally. And in fact, it's the same as our modern English word to tame. And it comes into Latin as domus, meaning house, and domesticated, and that same, or dominate, something who tames or controls others. The dominus, from that same root, is the tamer, the lord, the master. And you can make a future passive participle out of it by adding a ya. So damya, in Sanskrit, damya then means something that needs to be tamed. I mean, it needs taming. And the damya of Sanskrit becomes the dhamma of Pali. So dhamma, requiring to be tamed. That's the general meaning of the word. But then also it came to have a specific meaning, which was an untamed or an unbroken horse or ox. So it could properly be translated as bronco, which is the Spanish word that has come into English. The bronco is the wild, unbroken horse. And the idea, of course, here with taming, and we see this a lot in the Pali scriptures, where the human mind is likened to an untamed animal. So if it's not tamed, two things: it can be dangerous, is one thing, and also it's of no practical use to you. And the idea is that if you tame a wild beast, you achieve two results. Firstly, it's not dangerous anymore. And secondly, it's actually very useful to you. If you tame a wild dog, for example, the wild dog might be dangerous and useless. A tamed dog is friendly and no longer dangerous, and is in fact very useful to you. And the same with a wild horse. No use to you untamed, tame it, and of course it's useful. And no longer dangerous. And that is why this analogy is very often used with for example, the adantan chittang, the untamed chitta, the untamed mind. It's that same analogy. Now here you've got this imagery made explicit. So the Purisa Dhamma is the human bronco. It's explicitly comparing the person of undeveloped mind to a wild horse. So the Purisa Dhamma Sarati. Sarati, which I shall explain, the original word was rata, which originally meant a wheel, and then in Sanskrit and Pali came to mean a chariot, and in particular a war chariot, and that they were used in battle. Specifically, it was the two-wheeled chariot drawn by horses was your rata, your wheels, originally wheel, then chariot. It's the same word, rata, that turned up in Latin, meaning wheel, as rota, rota, and rotary, rotate. It's that same word. So rata, the chariot. The stem form ratin, or nominative singular, rati, is a charioteer, but in fact the ratim would be the warrior who uses a chariot. The actual chariot driver was the co-charioteer. So the ratin was, or rati, ratin, stem form rati, nominative singular form, the charioteer was the warrior. The saratin, literally the co-charioteer, was the person who was with the warrior who actually did the driving of the chariot. So not only was he in charge of driving the chariot, but he was in charge of also the general job of the horse tamer, the person in charge of the horses and of driving the chariot. So it was originally, samratin. Okay, that same word sam, meaning together or with. So the samratin was the person who was with the charioteer in the chariot and driving it, and that sam just became lengthened to sa in Pali, and that's how we get sarati, the co-charioteer, and was the person whose job also involved taming horses. So the Buddha now is likened to the charioteer, by extension the tamer, the horse tamer, of these human broncos, these wild, untamed human broncos, who need taming. So the human bronco charioteer, the tamer of the wild humans. Satta, it's from the root in Sanskrit shasta. I will show it to you. The root is in Vedic shas, meaning to teach. It also has the idea of governing and controlling. I might have done a note on it. Let me just check. Okay, I didn't find any cognates in English, but the basic meaning of the word shas means to teach or to instruct. I'll give you iPad again. Oh, where's my iPad gone? Oh, there we are. Oops. There we are. So shas to teach. In Sanskrit, the shasta is a teacher, and it's that word shasta that becomes in Pali, by regular phonetic mutation, is what you'd expect to see. Shasta in Sanskrit automatically becomes satta in Pali. Some of you may have heard of certain Hindu scriptures known as Shastra. So we get the Vedas, we get the Upanishads, and we have in Sanskrit, the Shastrani. So Shas plus tra meaning an implement or means for doing something. So Shastra literally means ways of teaching or materials for teaching. So you have the Upanishads, which we regard as sacred scriptures, then the Shastras were like explanatory materials, teaching materials devised to explain the explain the explain the Vedas and the Upanishads. So that explains the word satta, shastra, shasta, and satta. Deva manusanang. Deva is sometimes translated as a god, I mean, the small g god, but that can be a slightly misleading translation. The original meaning of the div from deva means bright or shining. So it's the shining beings at a level, they're a level above human beings, literally the shining ones. Probably better just to use the Sanskrit word of devas and humans. By the way, you might recognize the word deva comes into Latin as deus and then divinus, divine. It's that same word. Incidentally, it's also it came into Greek as with the change was z in Greek, Zeus, from which you get the word Zeus. You know, the chief god Zeus. So it's that same word. So Deva Manusanam, so Manusa we've seen before. Now, originally it's the same word, so Manu, meaning actually Manu derived originally from a root man, meaning to think. Same root as our English word mind, and the Latin mens, and the English word mental, is because this quality of being able to think is what distinguishes, or think at a certain level, is what distinguishes human beings from animals. And in Hindu mythology, Manu is regarded as the mythological first human being. Manu. So then Manushya would mean then a descendant of Manu, and therefore a human being. Rather like within, for example, biblical parlance, you might say sons of Adam, mean all the human race. The sons and daughters of Adam and Eve, meaning the whole human race. That's why from Manu, Manushya, Pali, Manusa, means a human, a descendant of Manu. But remember that man remains there as this original meaning of the thinking, the mind. And this is the generative plural of gods and men. This could have been given as Devanam Manusanam, to the anam ending, generative plural, teacher of gods and of men. So it could be Devanam Manusanam cha, of gods and of men. But you can run the two words together to make a compound, Deva Manusanam, in which case only the second word is declined. So Devanam Manusanam cha and Deva Manusanam have exactly the same meaning, and it's optional which one in Pali and Sanskrit you use. And the Buddho Bhagava words then that we've had. So, and the ending ti, this means that the speaker is ending his. This is what I've heard. Ti, unquote, end of quote. In Sanskrit, as I say, you would have had the full iti. In Pali, it just becomes ti. So we'll just look at that line. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vidya charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisadamma sarati satta Deva Manussanam Buddho Bhagavati. A very well-known chant among many Buddhists, and I think this is a warning to two of you. I might even get my meditation class to learn that bit by heart. And the rest, which is a little bit long, but so many people know it by heart. It's worth doing. So before we move on, then, do we have any comments or queries on this line? Well, I just need to refill my glass with water. I'll just be right back.
Mhm.
So if anyone needs to ask or comment, please do. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one.
I do have a question.
Yes, please, Todd.
When we were talking about Vidya and Vid and then Ved,
Mm-hmm.
um, is that also the same root that gives us Vedana?
It is, yes. Actually, we can deal with that right now. I'm glad you raised that. So um, this suffix, there are several, quite a few ways of making verbal nouns in Sanskrit and Pali. One of them is by adding ana to the root or to the modified root. For example, from the form vipassati, to see into something, we get vipassana, and so on. Commonly translated as insight. And from this root vid, strengthen the root to ved, and we get vedana, which is the word that is. In fact, the word Vedana and our English word, going back to our Old English verb, Vedana and witting, are actually cognate words that come to have slightly different meanings. So the Vedana literally just means a knowing, but it's knowing used in Buddhist terms in a highly specific sense. It is just the raw incoming sensation from an external contact. So you get the passa, in Sanskrit, sparsha, meaning the contact, and the contact results in a vedana. It's just the body is aware that some external contact has touched it, by the five senses or our six, the mind sense. So the vedana is knowing, not in the sense of an intellectual knowing, but the body having the sensation of an incoming sense data. So it has that highly specific meaning. Uh, so although it's from the same root as vidya, knowledge, the wisdom kind of knowledge, the meanings of those words have become specialized by usage. But thanks for raising that point, Todd. So was there anything else before we move on? Okay, let's proceed. We can always come back to anything as you want. So this is the Dhammanusati. It's the same Anusati, the recollecting. This is the Dhamma Anusati, then you merge those two short as into one long, so Dhammanusati. Oh, by the way, one thing I'll mention about sati, I'm writing. I will. I said it was from in Sanskrit, smriti, root smri. You quite often find that these roots in Vedic turn up in either identical or similar form in other languages. And it very often happens either they have acquired an S or dropped an S. It's quite a frequent phenomenon. And so the word krish, meaning to scratch, becomes stratch in English. It's acquired an S as it's gone along. The primitive root is a mre, which also has actually has the meaning of dying, but that's pure coincidence. It came into Latin as the smri. It lost its S when it came into Latin. And she did another thing as well. It also reduplicated the first consonant. So the smri, mor, it reduplicated with memor,
Right. Okay.
from which we have in English memory. So that the root of that word, the core of that word, is the Latin mor, which is the same as this smar in Sanskrit. So when we talk about sati, the sound has been lost in Pali, but sati is actually the same word that we are saying, the same root as in memory. So because as I say, the original meaning of that word was remembering. And the idea of remembering then mindfulness is that we go through life, we do what we do, but then you step back and watch what you're doing, and the memory bit is just remembering not to fall back into it, remembering to keep that distance. You're watching what is happening, and just remembering was the word chosen for it. If any of you are familiar with the teachings of Gurdjieff, exactly that same concept was used, known as remembering yourself, which is exactly the same idea as mindfulness. So, swakato. Oops, sorry. Swakato. I can't remember whether there's anything useful in this note that I did. It's funny, I've just doesn't seem to be any matches. That's funny. Bear with me a moment.
I was having the same problem in the December 9th glossary, if that's what you're looking up.
I am.
Yeah, Sarati, I wasn't finding any matches and with a number of others.
Somebody else had that problem, which was reported to me yesterday. And I said, "Are you sure you've got the diacritics right?" And he said, "Yes, because I copied it directly out of the text." And I've just had the same problem again with my own copy. So I've just copied and pasted double colon akata, but so I couldn't find under akata, so I just typed in kya, and that immediately brought me to the root. I'm not quite sure why that problem has occurred. So you're now the second person, Todd, who's indicated. So I'm going to have to try and work out what the problem is and how it's to be dealt with. Unfortunately, To the extent that I have any ability in explaining Pali, it is matched by grave inability when it comes to these technical matters. So I might have to enlist help. The other person who mentioned it did say that he just closed it all down and then opened it all up again. Then it started working. But this is the first time it's happened. Normally, with a straightforward Word document, you search and it gives you the result. I'm not sure if a bug has got into the document or what. Anyway, thanks for pointing. I'm not happy to hear it, but at least I'm glad now that if it's been pointed out now by two people, it's clearly a problem that requires attention. So the basic meaning of kya is to know or to name or to announce something, and the akya, announce towards somebody, means to proclaim or something, to make it known. So akyata in Sanskrit and then akata in Pali means something like proclaimed or made known. And here we have the su akata. Oops. By Santi, the su-a becomes swa. So su-akata, swakata. And then the masculine nominative form, swakato. So beautifully proclaimed, well proclaimed, literally. Bhagavata, that's the instrumental form, by the way. We've had now Bhagava, Bhagavantam, Bhagavato. This is Bhagavata, instrumental form, by the Blessed One. So well proclaimed by the Blessed One is the Dhamma. Sanditiko. Let me just see if I can, if I can get the same problem when I try again. Going to it again. This time, Todd, it took me straight to it. So it's just playing up, and sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. I do not know why this is happening. Anyway, here we are, and we're back to this. As Shalek was mentioning earlier, what is the meaning of this word "some"? You see this prefix "some." It's got a range of meanings, very much like, what is the meaning of co and con as a Latin prefix that we have in so many English words. It's broadly that same. It also has the idea of comprehensiveness. Look at the word comprehensive. The word to prehendere is to take. Comprehendere is kind of to take everything in. It's like an enfolding kind of gathering. So sandittika, so it's from the root drish, meaning to see. So sandrishti, which in Pali is sanditi, is like a complete sight, a full view, a comprehensive seeing. The idea here is that he's not hiding anything from you. Look, I'm laying out my teaching in full view. It's open to you to see. And sanditi, the full view, just make an adjective, sandittika. It's the same ditti, Sanskrit drishti, that we find in the first limb, the first anga of the Noble Eightfold Path, samaditi, the one typically translated as right view, literally right seeing. So sandittika, then plainly visible. It also has an alternative translation of something you can see right here and now. You don't have to wait for some future time. So it has both ideas, completely visible and right now. The sanditiko, nothing hidden about it. Akaliko is a much easier word. The word kala, meaning time. Note that this word kala means time in the sense of the duration of time, not as how many times have you done something. That would be more like a moment in time. There is a separate word in Sanskrit and Pali, samaya, meaning at that time, at that moment. For example, many of the suttas begin, at one time the Buddha was dwelling so-and-so, ekasmin samaye, at one time. It's the same in modern Hindi. I'll ask you Marathi in a moment, shall I? In modern Hindi, samay means a time. How many times? Kitne samay? How many times? What do you have in Marathi? Do you do the same now in Marathi?
In Marathi, samay does mean time, but
Yeah.
in colloquially we don't use it. We say it वेळ.
Veil.
वेळ.
Okay, right. So you colloquially then you use a different word. But
Yes.
would that be a more kind of formal literary Marathi? You would use samay, samaya.
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay. I suppose the same in Hindi. I mean, normal colloquial say kitni vakt or something like that. That they would
Yes,
say,
samay does mean time in Hindi.
yeah.
And I have, sorry, go on. I'll ask my question later.
Okay, I was just going to say in colloquial Hindi, you'd use a different word, kitne vakt or something like that, using the Arabic Urdu word. But kitne samay in a higher form of Hindi. So what were you about to say, Shalika?
I so far Akaliko, I think in one of the books I had read the meaning as without any delay, something that gives fruit without any delay.
Okay, fine, correct. So actually, that is, I think, the better interpret. There's more than one interpretation, but the one you've told us is the better one, in my own view, and I think in the view of commentators as well. So we've got the kala in the sense of time, duration of time, like waiting for a long time would be a long kala. So if something is akaliko, that would literally mean timeless. So kalika, something that belongs in kala, belongs in time. Negate it, akalika, timeless. What does it actually mean? As I think the best interpretation is the one that Shaleka has just given, which is like it works immediately. It's not something you have to wait for a long time in order to see the benefits. There are some, particularly for example, in the Roman Catholicism, as I was brought up in, we're often told, you will regret it after you're dead, or you will have your reward in heaven after you're dead. So the idea of this, if your reward or punishment is akaliko, you get it without having to wait. You don't have to wait either for a long time, or indeed even until after you're dead and you're in another realm. So so akaliko, literally timeless, meaning and it works immediately. You don't have to wait for the results. Ehipassiko. This is quite an unusually formed word from the root I, which we've just been looking at, meaning to go. We have the imperative form ehi. So ai, a in Sanskrit is to come. So ehi would mean come, passa, see. So the imperatives ehi, come, passa, see. So you call to somebody, ehi, passa, come, see, come, look. So we now put these two words together and make an adjective out of it. So ehi passiko, it's like the Dhamma that says come and see, or the come and see-ish Dhamma. In other words, you're not invited to accept somebody's word for it. You can come and look at it for yourselves, is the idea here. So ehi passiko, the come and see Dhamma. Upanayiko. So that's quite an interesting word. It meant initiation in Sanskrit, among the Brahmins. And I'll explain that. With my iPad, here we are. So it's from the root ni, meaning to lead. And from that same root, we get the word, for example, anayaka, means a leader. With the prefix v, it also makes a verbal noun naya, meaning leading, the act of leading. By the way, if you put the separative prefix vi in front of it, meaning separating or away from, you get the vinaya, which of course is the word for the monastic discipline, the books of the Vinaya. So Vinaya literally means leading away, guiding something where either the meaning could equally bear both. Vinaya because it guides or keeps people away from doing wrong, or it guides wrongdoing away from you, keeping you apart from wrongdoing. That's the original meaning of Vinaya. Now, if we put the word upa in front of it, the word upa is actually directly cognate with our English word up. It's the same word. So upanaya
leading
means leading up, leading somebody up to somebody else. So this word upanaya was used actually among the Brahmins as a kind of initiation. Normally it was done around the age of 12 or 13. You had the upanaya, where the young Brahmin was led up to his guru to receive the preliminary initiation. So it's the leading up and therefore initiation. It's broadly equivalent to the Jewish bar mitzvah ceremony and the confirmation ceremony among Christians. It's that ceremony roughly at that age, literally the leading up and initiation. Now, in Sanskrit, you make an adjective out of that by strengthening the first syllable utu au. So aupanayika means relating to leading up, or also initiatory. In Pali, aupanayika just becomes aupanayika. Pali doesn't have the sound au or ai. So anything is au or ai in Sanskrit becomes o and e in Pali. So upanayiko can be interpreted in two ways. Either is just something that leads you forward, guides you forward, is the one literal interpretation. And the alternative interpretation, it means initiatory. Now, the Buddha very often used Brahmanical terms, the terms used by the Brahmins in connection with their own practice, with a different meaning to it. So whereas the Brahmins had their upanaya, their formal initiation, it was as if the Buddha was saying, yes, you've got your initiation ceremony, but the hearing and the practicing of the Dhamma is the true initiation into the holy life. So the word upanayiko can bear both meanings. It's something that leads you forward, or it is the initiatory in the sense of being the true initiation. The next one is pachattam, for oneself. It would be prati atma in Sanskrit. So prati with regard to or against, pratyatma for oneself, with regard to oneself. So pratyatmanam or pratyatman in Sanskrit becomes pachattam. That's by regular phonetic mutation in Pali. So it means for oneself, or with regard to oneself. And the meaning here, so veditabbo, here we got our root vid, it becomes ved here. Veditabbo, knowable, to be known, is the same root vid. So pachattam veditabbo, to be known by oneself, in the sense of you don't know it because other people tell you about it. You know it by directly trying it, practicing it, experiencing it. So pachattam veditabbo, to be known or experienced for oneself, by oneself. By the way, this abbo, the abba ending, became abilis in Latin and able in English. So veditabbo, wittable, knowable, to be known. So we can translate by direct linguistic transposition, veditabba, wittable, knowable, either capable of being known or requiring to be known. And vinyuhi.
T.
Okay, so the vinyuhiti, the T here is just like end quote. On its own, it's just vinyuhi, by the wise. We've had, well, we know vid, to know, and then with the adjective ending u, loka vidu, knower of the worlds, vidu. We have vijnana, which typically translated as consciousness, though there's a lot to that word. But in this context, vinya just means wisdom here. So the vinyu means a person of wisdom, a person with vijnana, a person with knowledge and consciousness of it. So directly to be known by the wise. Note, by the way, that it changes to a short. This is the instrumental plural, which is the ehi or uhi ending. It actually normally ends with a short e, which I'll change there. Bit of grammar here, that whenever you get a word ending in a short vowel in Pali, followed by ti, the short vowel automatically lengthens. So on its own, the word would be vinyuhi, with a short e, by the wise, but with the following t, it becomes vinyuhiti. This is a purely phonetic phenomenon. It has no grammatical significance. It doesn't alter the meaning in any way. So swakato bhagavata dhammo sanrittiko akaliko ehipassiko opanayiko pachattam veditabbo vinyuhiti. So we've got, well, firstly, before we do a couple of recitations of it, is any comments or queries on any of it? So we shall have a recitation of it. Would you like to have a go, Shalaka, at reciting it?
Yes, sure. Just from Swakato.
Actually, shall we go back to the first one, since we've done that one? There's this one here, beginning with Itipiso. Now, if you feel like chanting it in our usual way, very welcome. Either chant it or just say it in prose style, as you wish.
I would prefer to chant it. It's difficult to say it in prose.
Actually, yes. I mean, I've chanted it so many times. It's very difficult to say it in prose. So please chant it.
Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisadamma sarathi sattha deva manusanang buddho bhagavati.
That came out really beautifully. And I saw how you didn't even try to stopping yourself doing the an Anjali as you went. So, would you like to have a go, Krista?
The same one.
The same. So thank you for that Shalaka. The copy Shalaka that came out beautifully the way Shalaka did it.
Right, so Itipiso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho Vicha Charana Sampano Sukatolo Kavidu Anutaro Purisadhamma Saratisata Deva Manusanam Buddho Bhagavati.
Very nice. But just one thing I'll pick you up on slightly. There's a double N there. Remember, where you get a doubled consonant, make sure you do pronounce it emphatically double. It's not sampanno, but sampanno. It must, and it actually makes the syllable heavy. If you were chanting in a group and you said incorrectly sampanno, the anno, it should be sampanno. You'll actually be one beat out of step with the rest of the group. That's why the correct light syllables, heavy syllables are actually quite vital in chanting. One thing I think most of you have got it. It's part of my mission in life to make sure that as many people as I can will know that in the precepts, the third precept, Michachara veramani sikhapadam samadhyami. Michachara. Some people say michachara, which is actually wrong. It's a lot. The reason they say that because under the natural phonetics of English, to say or three long in a row is unnatural for us in the normal rhythms of English. So why people go michachara, but no, it's actually wrong in Pali, michachara. And if you do that when you're chanting in unison, you will immediately see that you're one beat out. And also, can you just say the sugato lo kavidu?
Sugato lo kavidu.
Right, good. Sometimes, again, it's a feature of the phonetics of English. We tend to make that too short almost to disappear. It's a short vowel, but it's got to be distinctly pronounced sugato, not sugato, or something sugato lo kavidu. But otherwise, very good. Thank you, Krista. Chen Hui, you love doing it, don't you?
Itipiso bhagavato araha samma
Sambuddho
samma sambuddho vichacharana sampanno sugato lukavidu anuttara pirasata
Purisa Dhamma. I shall put that.
Prisadhamma.
Yes.
Sahanati Sata.
Sarati.
Sarahati Sata. Dava Manusanama Buddha Bhagavati.
You are making great improvements. That's very good, Chen Hui. But just pronounce this one word again. Deva. Deva.
Deva.
Okay, right. One point on the pronunciation of this, what we write in Roman scriptures as a V, and in English we pronounce it as a V with the lower lip against the upper teeth.
Deva.
But don't do it like that. That's how we would normally want to do it as English speakers if we see a V. It's pronounced certainly among the Northern Indians between vowels as something between a V and a W. It's with the lips slightly together. Deva, deva. Well, certainly that would be how it's done in the Ganges Valley. How would you say deva, devanam in Marathi, Shalaka?
Devanam.
Say it again.
Devanam.
Okay. And that would be the same as the Ganges Valley pronunciation. It's between a V and a W. Now, the Thais, for example, always pronounce it as a pure W. They would say Dewanang, if the Thais would. Many English people seeing would say Devan, pronouncing the V exactly like as they would in English. It doesn't really matter. If you pronounce it as a pure W, I wouldn't say you're wrong. We've got that's how the Thais do it, and I think the Burmese as well. And I try to make it come out in the same way as the modern speakers of the Northern Indian languages pronounce it, which is probably the closest pronunciation we're going to find to the Buddha, because languages like Hindi and Marathi are direct descendants of the Prakrits. You can say they're the direct descendants of Sanskrit and Pali. If you don't get it absolutely right, don't fret. It's pronounced in different ways in different parts. So the Northern Indian pronunciation of a V, you'll find that in Sinhala it's more of a V sound. Tamil speakers will pronounce it as a pure V, like English. The Thais will pronounce it as a W. So it doesn't terribly matter. So okay, thank you for that, Chen Hui. And in not too long, you will be chanting this by heart. Okay, so we've just time for a couple more before we wind up. Jay, would you like to have a go?
Is it okay if I don't today, James?
I'm never going to force anyone. It's totally voluntary. No problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very kind.
I mean, I asked Chen Hui because I know, you see, that Chen Hui sometimes feels a little bit shy about it. But after she's finished, she's really happy, you see. And rightly so, Chen Hui. So let's have a recital from yourself, Todd, and then we can wind up with the blessing.
Do you want that chanted or spoken?
I'll leave that entirely within your good discretion.
All right, let's see what comes out.
Let's see.
Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vicacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manusa nang buddho bhagavati.
Okay, that came out very, very nicely and clearly learnt from Thai chanting.
Seems likely.
It's highly it was a dead giveaway. There were several things that make it a dead giveaway. Firstly, this pronunciation of the the way the Thais were not more the Northern Indians would just never pronounce it like that. The Northern Indians would pronounce it much itipiso and namo the ties, the or, when they're chanting the long or stressed, it comes out as a curious diphthong. I don't know if I can pronounce it entirely right myself, but the way you did it sounded very, very Thai. So
So when that becomes a complex vowel, that's from Thai.
that's right. It's how the Thai is chanted. It's just a feature not only of Thai phonetics, but of the traditional Thai chanting.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I
And
might have actually got it from someone who had learned it from a Cambodian teacher,
okay, right. That
which
sounds
would also,
highly likely. And that Cambodian teacher might even, Nai Boonman by any chance. Nai Boonman was half Thai, half Cambodian, as you may know.
yeah.
But within the tradition, so both in Cambodia and Thailand, they tend to pronounce it in that way. So, for example, if you're a Northern Indian, you said in a Thai way, "Namo," they say, well, "What's that meant to be?" Namo. No, it's Namo. But it's okay, fine. And obviously, within this group, we can, if you wish to do the Thai pronunciation or Cambodian, absolutely fine, of course. Another point is that the Thais find great difficulty with the aspirated word sambuddho, Dhamma. The Thais can't do that. It comes out as Dhamma, sambuddho. But that's a feature of the Thai phonetics, because just as English speakers find it difficult to say the sounds, Buddha, Dhamma, so equally the Thais just unvoice it, Dhamma, Buddha,
So Sambuddho.
Sambuddho. If you're a northern Indian, Ganges Valley, right across to the coast, Hindi right through to Marathi, this the sound and the Bhagawan. So also this word Bhagawa, you'd have a distinct voiced b, but aspirated Bhagawa. Difficult sound for the English to master. The Thai for Thai is impossible. So if you're Thai, it comes out as Pagawa, as if it's a P, not a B. But again, just note, and absolutely fine. It's just a feature of the phonetics of Thai. And it's how they all do it.
Some points to work on.
Some points to work on, and certainly within the Samatha tradition. I mean, if people chant it exactly like a Thai, I'm never going to say no, that's wrong. It's part of the genuine tradition that we have inherited ultimately from Nai Boonman and the tradition that he was brought up in. But speaking purely as a linguist, I would say that absolutely fine, but just bear in mind that is specifically the phonetics of Thai. If you want to try and pronounce it as close as possible to how the Buddha might have pronounced it, say Bhagawa and Sambuddho. So I'm absolutely not saying you're wrong and just pointing out the differences between how it was most likely pronounced, how it is pronounced now in India, how it was most likely pronounced 2,500 years ago, and how we know it's pronounced by the Thais now. Don't fret
So,
about it. They're different
yeah.
styles.
So it would be kind of like speaking Church Latin in Spain as opposed to the way it would have been spoken in the Roman Empire.
Exactly so. Yeah, I mean, that's a very good analogy because we've got a pretty good idea how classical Latin was pronounced. And of course, we definitively know how modern Italians, Spanish, and French pronounce it now. I mean, I'm not going to dare go up to a Spanish priest and say, "Wait, you're pronouncing that wrong, Padre." Wouldn't dare do that. It's just the way it's done within the tradition that they have. So just bear in mind, absolutely not saying it's wrong. Just bear in mind these phonetic differences that have arisen out of tradition. So must be 9:25 already. So what we can do, we can wind up the
It looks
session.
like Talia has a question.
Oh, sorry, Talia. Yes, please come in. So I didn't spot.
May I ask about the double D?
Yes.
Would it be similar to the Welsh double D?
Not, it kind of veers towards it, but not quite. Because the Welsh double D is pronounced exactly like our English the sound. The Eisteddfod, I think, or Eisteddfod is. So
Well, I thought it was more like the sound that you made, the.
so no, it may be because just the over the airwaves, we may not get very exact reproduction of the sounds that we're actually making. So the double D is in Buddha. It's a dental D. I'll just put it from Buddha to the word that actually Buddha is just the dental D, meaning the tongue is just behind the ridge of the teeth. The. Double it and then aspirate it. Buddha.
Da.
Buddha. Sorry, Buddha.
Buddha.
Yeah, that okay. You're nearly there. That was dental, but just the the slight h sound coming out after it. Buddha.
Buddha.
That was much better. Okay, we can have the authentic Indian pronunciation from Shalaka. Please give us the authentic Indian.
So, Buddha.
So now say again loud and clear.
Buddha.
Exactly. So you heard that it was a dental D doubled and with the little puff of breath. Buddha. So and it's not a the as in English the, and it's not a the. So Buddha.
Buddha.
Yeah.
Buddha.
Oh, yeah. It's a difficult sound for us to master if we're native English speakers. I said the Thais just don't do it. They just say Buddha, Buddha. In fact, they aren't even particularly interested in the aspiration either. So you might hear it as Buddha, which the native Indian speakers say, hang on, that's just not wrong. It's not Buddha, it's Buddha. But okay, that's the way that Thais do it. Okay, can we try it once more, Talia? See how it comes out.
Buddha. 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 Buddha.
Ah,
Buddha.
that one. The third
Buddha.
one was closest. Buddha.
Buddha.
You went through a range of pronunciations. One of them got very good.
Buddha.
That's getting much better. But take heart. When I first started my study of, actually, I started off with Hindi and Sanskrit. It was one of the most difficult sounds to master and get it to sound right, simply because it's not native to our phonetics of English. So don't fret about it. To this day, the Thais haven't got it. But anyway, I think you got it better than a lot of Thais would. Okay, fine. So almost 9:30. Should we wind up with our blessing chant?
Yeah.
We can do that together. This is another one, Chen Hui and Jai, that you will be learning by. This is actually quite an easy one. Yeah. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada suti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada suti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanu bhavena sada suti bhavantu te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, great. So thank you very much for joining me. And we will be having the class on Tuesday, last one, of course, before Christmas. And as I was just saying earlier to Fenny, I think now with the actual physical, the face-to-face attendance having dropped to the level it is. I think just anyone can turn up at will. We'll see how it goes. I think it should be okay. Just turn up at will Tuesday and or Saturday as you wish. If you want to be at both, very welcome. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye then. Bye. Bye.